This is Mr. Rio, and I'm doing another screen recording here for the Internet History assignment. And we're going to start out with the first step you're supposed to do is type up the paragraphs of the Internet History assignment. And the only time you hit return is at the end of the paragraph. I'm going to click up here. This little looks like a backward P up here with the black on it. This is the hide show button for invisible characters. And when you click on it, you'll see where there are returns at the end of paragraphs. And for some strange reason, there's one there, even though that should not have one. So I'm going to take that one out. I did it with delete. Looks like there might, okay, looks like that one might be okay there. But either way, the way Microsoft Word works is when we do our paragraph formatting, it treats everything as a paragraph until you hit return. You write one word, it treats it as a paragraph until you hit return, or a sentence, or 3 sentences, or 8 sentences, or whatever it may be. So this is just typed up single space, no first line indent. If you did put in some first line indents, like maybe use a space bar or hit the tab key once, click your cursor there and press delete to get rid of them. So if you had something like this, and if you had something, well, I can't do it right now because I'm in this mode. But either way, if you did have one in there, say you made one manually, you just click in the cursor, hit delete, and bring it back. Now, first thing we're going to do with this document is edit all the paragraphs, the entire document. And we are starting right up here near the top. Above this would be the header. We don't want to put anything in the header right now. We're just going to have our text here. We'll put titles and stuff up here later using a text box. So to start out with, we're going to go up to the Edit menu and do a Select All, or you can do a Command A for a keyboard shortcut on a Mac. And right now we got all of our text selected. Okay, now we're going to go up to the Format menu and go to the Paragraph dialog box. Now what is in the Paragraph dialog box? A lot of things. And you can format one paragraph with this. You can format 50 paragraphs with this. So it can really make it easy and convenient for when you got, especially when you got a lot of paragraphs to edit. We're going to do something unique here. We've for alignments, I think everyone's pretty familiar with left, center, and right alignment. The one we have not done yet is justified. Justified is unique. When you click on it, if you look down here and you can see a preview down here, it lines up on both the left and the right evenly, kind of like a left and a right alignment at the same time. How does it do that? It does it by putting more space between the words. And you see this a lot in newspapers and magazines. And when I say newspapers, I still think of the print editions. Now we read a lot of them online, but they still use justified a lot. And so do magazines and books and other things. You see it around a lot. So we're going to have justified for our alignment. We're not going to do anything with this outline here. Now the indentation, we'll do one paragraph just to demonstrate this, the left and the right, in a little while. But for now, all we want is a first line indent. So that's over here under Special. And when you click on Special and go to First Line Indent, okay, by default, it sets up a 1/2 inch first line indent. I always consider the 1/2 inch a bit big for a first line indent. So you can click the little arrow here and make it 0.3, or you can just highlight here and literally type 0.3, and that would do the same thing. It knows it's inches, so you don't have to put the inches mark. Now down here for spacing, we're going to ignore this part right here on the left, and we're going to go over here where it says line spacing, and we're going to change the single to 1.5. Now there's also double that makes it even more farther apart. For a lot of things, I kind of like 1.5. It's more apart than single, but it's not huge apart. So we're going to do 1.5 lines on this one. So you should have your 1 inch margins already. We made those default a long time ago. So we got justified, first line indent 0.3 of an inch, 1.5 lines line spacing. We hit OK. Now we just formatted our entire document because we did all the paragraphs. We did a select all. So that was really easy. Now we're going to deselect this here, and we can see our nice, neat looking document now. And we're going to go up to the Format menu and do something a little bit different. Well, before we do that, let me just demonstrate something that be easy to get out of the way right now. Let's highlight just the second paragraph. And you can either highlight it or literally just put your cursor in it would be good enough, because then it'll know it's that paragraph has been selected. We're just going to do a little demonstration here so you can see how this works. Let's say this was a special type of quote you might have in a research paper, and sometimes quotes and unique types of things you might include in a research paper might want to be indented and be a single space and look a little different. I'm going to show you how to do that from a formatting point of view. So highlight your second paragraph, go up here to Format in Paragraph. Now we're only formatting that paragraph. So we're going to leave our justified, we're going to leave our first line indent. The difference is we're going to make a left and a right indent of 1 inch each. So you can hit the arrow keys like this, and you'll see the preview here showing what's going on. Or you can just highlight and put a 1 in there, it'll know it's an inch. And you can hit OK. Now that's still at 1.5 inch line spacing. And usually when people do these kind of custom edits, because they're extended quotes, that's one of the formatting ways to do extended quotes, they usually then would make it single space. Now, a lot of you are saying we could have just done that in the paragraph dialog box, or we can go back there. And yes, we can. But if all you're doing is line spacing, you have it right here in front of you. Yep, literally right there on the home toolbar, you got your line spacing. So if that's all you need to do, no problem. You just go there, you can change it right there, or you could go back to the paragraph dialog box and do it. Now you can click here. That would look a little weird there, so I'm going to add a little space there. I don't know if you have space like that. So this here is how you would format something like this. It doesn't come up very often, but there are occasions that you may want to do that. Now, say I want to decide, whoops, I don't want to do that. I want to go back to a normal paragraph. Well, yes, I could highlight this or put my cursor in it, go to paragraph dialog box, and make a bunch of changes. But if I know that the formatting here or here is what I want, there's an easier way. You just put your cursor anywhere where you want to copy the formatting. What does copy formatting mean? It means everything. When you put your cursor, say, up here or down here, because they got the same formatting, it'll copy the font, the type of font. It'll copy the size, the paragraph formatting, the color, whatever it's formatted. So you can click here or up here. It doesn't matter because they're the same. And then we're going to go up here. This looks like a little paintbrush. It used to be called Format Painter in the old versions of Word, but now it just says copy formatting on there. But either way, you got your cursor where you want to copy it from. That's how it knows where to copy it from. You click on the paintbrush. Now just drag it across. Whoop, I think I deselected mine. So I'm going to deselect right there. Okay, cursor's there. Click on the paintbrush. Drag across here. Let go. And voila, you have it done. And it's formatted just like the other paragraphs. Now I still got that extra space in here. If you got an extra space pops up for some reason, just get your cursor down there somewhere. Hit delete until it goes away. It takes a little getting used to. Okay, so you got to see the paragraph dialog box. You know, you got line spacing up here. Now we're going to put this in columns. What are columns? Well, let's go up to the Format menu and go to Columns. Now that brings up the column dialog box. So you can put your document in, right by default, it's one column. You may not have ever thought of that, but the entire width is one column. If you got 8.5 inches wide or 1 inch margins, that leaves 6.5 inches. You can see that right here. Now let's say we go to 2 columns, which is what we're going to do. All you got to do is click on that. Now by default, it's going to put this in 3 inches on each column with a 1/2 inch in between. That's fine. If for some reason you want to custom edit your column sizes, you could do that. But more often than not, if you want 2 columns, the default works just great. So we're going to click OK, and now we have a 2-column document. So that, you know, should this is often used in, again, like magazine articles and newspapers and things like that. And you would read it starting over here on the left and go down, and when you hit the bottom, you come back up here on the top. Now we're going to do a little more formatting. Actually, the middle space there's a bit big. You might look at that and say, oh no, maybe that's a little too big. So if you want to edit that, you can go up to Format, go to Columns. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that 0.5 more like a 0.3. Now notice as I did that, it made the width over here a little bigger, which is fine. And we're going to hit OK. I think that looks a little nicer now. I think the other one was a little bit big. Okay, now we want to put a title up here. Now, we have our paragraphs lined up neatly here, and they start right at the top of the page. Above that is the header area. We don't want our main title in the header because it's not a header. We don't want it coming up on every page. So we're going to make a title using a text box. Why a text box? Because it will neither be header nor will it be part of this here. So if we need to edit this or do something, it'll be separate. We can put it wherever we want. How do you add a text box? It's really easy. Just go to Insert, go over here where it says Text Box, pull that down, go to Draw Text Box, drag that across some here at the top, and we're just going to call it Internet History. Now we're going to need to format this a little bit, so we can highlight it. Now we got to go back to our Home toolbar. If you want to change the font for some reason, you can do that. Maybe I'll try Calibri for something different. Make it bigger. I'm going to go 24. I'm going to make mine bold. Now I could center it just with the text box. I don't necessarily have to center it within the text box, but a lot of times when I'm going to center something, I like to center it in the text box also. Now to move the text box around, you don't want to click on the handle because that just makes the text box bigger. If anything, you might want to make the text box a little smaller so it's just a little bit bigger than the text that you have in it. Okay, you don't need it massively big. Now to move the whole thing, you can click in the middle here like I'm doing, or on the border, just don't click on the handle. And that looks pretty good. And now right now this, as you may know, has a border around it. Probably don't want a border with something like this. So with it selected, I'm going to double click on the border so I can get this menu right here. And I'm going to go up here to, first of all, I'll go to fill while I'm here and put no fill. I don't want a fill in there. I don't know if it had one, but I'll make sure it got no fill. And I'm going to take out the outline and put no outline. Now you see a border when you're editing because you have to see that for your text box. But if you deselect, there, you don't have any text box and it looks just fine. Now some of you might say, well, if you want to put your name up there, no problem. Just click back on the Home, Insert, go back to text box, draw another text box, put a small one here. Actually, I want you to do both of these. And then you can just type by and put your name. And mine, I have to make the text box slightly bigger, a little bit wider. That looks good. If anything, no bigger than 12 point. I can make it even 10 point would probably look pretty good. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that. How do I do that? Just highlight over it, go back to Home, change this to 10 point. And again, I don't want the border on there. Unfortunately, it seems to come up automatically. So I'm going to click on there so I get the shape format toolbar. I'm going to go up here and take out the fill and take out the outline. Fill and line. Deselect. That looks pretty good right there. Now we're going to add some pictures. So first thing I want you to do is find a picture on the internet of something about the internet, like a picture that represents the internet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and open up Chrome. You can use whatever web browser you like. And I'll just put the internet. Okay? And I'll click on Images. And then I get all these images that look like the internet. Some look like address, some look like this. I'm not real picky. I'm going to click on this one here. It kind of shows the world interconnected. And when you click it and you get it up in this box right here, do a right click, go Save Image As. We're going to use a desktop, so if it says here on my Mac, that means you're trying to save to OneDrive, so you might want to click on my Mac. And if this is small, click on this here to expand it, the button there. And mine here got a weird name, so I'm just going to simply name it Internet Pic. And it's going to be JPEG, it says right there. And sometimes you may get a ping. That should still work okay for what we're doing. And I'm going to just save it on my desktop here and hit save. And I just found it on my desktop. It's over here. So I'm going to minimize this. And I could literally just drag my image straight onto my document. Let's see here. I'm going to go out here. Now it's going to go wherever the cursor is. I'm going to let go, and it just went into there. That's a start. That's not exactly where I want it, but that's a start. Now you can also, I'll undo that here real quick and show you another method. You can also put your cursor wherever you want. Again, I'll just stick it here to put somewhere. And then go to Insert right there, and go to Pictures, and go to Picture from File, and wherever you have it saved, mine's on the desktop, so I'm going to look here for desktop, and then I'm going to, let's see, my desktop's not showing it for some reason. Oh, it's up here, so wrong desktop. I'm going to go here, I'm going to look for my internet pick, and I'm going to insert it, and it's going to come in much like it did if I dragged it out there. So that's a start. I mean, if that's exactly how you wanted it for some weird reason, that's okay, but we want something to look a little bit better. Now, we had used the wrap text before when we literally wanted to just move the image around. We weren't wrapping text, and it works for that, and we've done that a number of times already. But right now, we're going to do it, and we're going to use it as what it's meant for, which is actually wrapping text around the picture. So we're going to click on our picture, and actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and add caption. With our picture selected, go to Insert and go down to Caption. Now, it always leaves in that figure 1. You can add that out later. And we will put the internet, the internet is global. And put a period. We have it set for below. We'll leave everything else as is, and we'll hit OK. Now down here, I'm going to click here so it centers it, and I can click in this box here and get rid of that figure 1 if I don't want it. So I just got the internet as global. And now with this selected, and I think I might need to do a shift click. No, maybe I don't. I think that should be connected. We'll see. We'll find out. Now we're going to do the text wrap. So right now you may look up here. You're on the home toolbar and you don't see text wrap. Double click on your image. Now it should bring up the picture format toolbar, and you should see text wrap right here. It's actually called wrap text. Now there are different ways you can wrap text. That's going to put words around it. I'm not going to go over all of them right now. Mostly they're pretty self-explanatory here. You can also try them out if you wanted to, but tight is often what we use. So we're going to click tight. Now that changes so we can move it. And you notice as you move it around, it wraps the text around it. Now you might notice this did not move. I wasn't sure if this was going to move or not. I'm going to see if that's movable. Okay, it's not really that movable. I'm not even sure where mine just disappeared to, so I'm going to undo it. Now what I'm going to do with that selected, I'm going to see if there's a way I can wrap this. If there isn't, I think I'm just going to delete it and start over. It seemed like in the past that used to wrap, but I just deleted that. Now I'm just going to click here. Now I'll do my caption. Now you could also make a text box and put underneath there and wrap that. So that's another thing you can do. For this one, we'll do the regular caption. So I'll go to Insert Caption, and I'll quickly do this again. I'll put the internet is global. Okay, and I'll hit OK. I'll center that, and I'll click in here and get rid of my figure 1. I don't really want that, and that's okay. That looks pretty good there, so I'm going to deselect. So this is already looking a bit like a magazine. Again, you can move it around a little bit. You can also resize your image. Your image might be real big. It might be real small. You can resize it to whatever you think is going to look pretty good for your layout. Now, don't just look at this here. Look at the way the words are wrapping around it. Right now, this looks pretty good, but it wouldn't take a whole lot, and it could look pretty bad. Okay, now I realize this here. I'm going to click on this, see if I can wrap this separate. That'd be my caption, because right now it didn't let me move that. And, oh, looks like I can move it, but it doesn't necessarily, oh, the box moved. Well, when in doubt, you can always make another one. Okay, I'm going to click on this here. Okay, because this here wasn't too wide, kind of hid my wrap text under arrange. I'm going to go here and do a tight. Okay, that should make this tight too, so I can move this around. Okay, so that should be okay. We'll see. Okay. Okay, that's looking pretty good right there. Okay, we're going to go a little farther down here. You notice this goes on to the next page here. Okay, we're going to go a little farther down. We're going to put in something called a pull quote. What's a pull quote? You'll see this a lot in magazines. It's where there's a big box in the middle with a quote from your document. So we got to find a quote here. So we'll take a look here through our text. We'll take something right out of our text. And I see there's a typo right here. We'll take that typo out. It's a big S in there before the word military. Okay, this will work. See this sentence right here? The internet was started in the 1960s as a program of the military to network computers in different locations around the country. So we don't want to delete this or cut it. We just want to highlight it and do a copy. So you can do a Command C or go up to the edit menu and do a copy. Okay, now you still leave that where it is. We don't want to move that. Now we're going to click up to insert, and we're going to do a text box and draw a text box. And we're literally going to draw it anywhere you want. I'm going to put mine smack dab in the middle here. It's going to look kind of weird. Now I'm going to paste in my quote, and I'm going to format it. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go back to the home here, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, probably 16 point. I can also make this even bigger to fit it better. Okay, and I also, a lot of times, pull quotes are in italic. So I'm going to put in an italic. And again, I don't really like the way that text is lining up in there, so I'm going to play around with the width here a little bit. Okay, that looks a little bit better there. Make this here a little bit smaller. Now, first thing I'm going to do before I do any editing on this here, I'm literally going to double click on the border here, go up here to, again, because of other stuff popping up here, my wrap text is not coming up here, so I got to go under arrange. There, it's kind of hidden there. Now yours may be up here because you have a wider view. I have mine blown up quite a bit here, so I can zoom in a lot. So my wrap text happens to be under arrange, but yours probably isn't if it's across your screen. So I'm going to go here, and I can do a tight just like I did with the image. Now that text wraps around there. Okay? Now some of this text is looking a little bit weird, so I want to play around with the shape of the text box or the location of the text box until I get it where I think it looks pretty good. Now remember, you have other paragraph maybe starting here like I do. Yours won't look identical to mine. Don't worry about that. Just get it to look pretty good. Now that's looking pretty good there. Now with the pull quote like this, sometimes these are have a border around them, but often they don't. So if you want to get rid of the border, just double click on the border of that, go up to your shape fill, put none. Actually, the fill probably didn't really matter if I had one or not, if you can't really see it. Sometimes people put like a light gray fill or something in there. That's not too bad. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to go up here to this here and take the outer line out. I don't want that. I'm going to deselect. And now this is really looking a lot like something you might see in a magazine. Now, one other thing I want to do on here before we wrap this assignment up is do a drop cap. Now, what is a drop cap? Well, a lot of magazines, articles, newspaper articles on occasion, and maybe the the first sentence of a book chapter have the first letter that's really big and usually goes multiple lines. So we're going to do it for here in this paragraph here. Now, when you're going to put in a drop cap, you want to take out the first line indent. How do you do that? You just click up here, get your cursor before the first word, which is in, hit delete. And now we don't have a first line indent right there. Now your cursor can be anywhere in this paragraph. It'll know that paragraph to put a drop quote. So you can click there, you can click here, click there, click there. It'll all work. You don't have to select it all, just your cursor up there is just fine. Then you're going to go to insert, and you're looking around for drop cap, or drop cap under format. Drop caps under format. Sorry about that. Okay, you go to drop. Sometimes things that are on insert, sometimes they're in format. It's, look around if you're not sure. Now we're going to go under drop cap, and it's going to bring up this dialog box. Now by default, there's none. That's why we don't see one. We're going to click on the second one over. It has a font selected, Arial. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. By default, it does 3 lines. Now, a drop cap can be 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines. There's no point in having it be 1 line, probably. 3 lines is pretty typical, so we're going to leave that. If you want a little bit of distance from the text, you can adjust that. I'm not going to worry about that till I see what it looks like. And if I don't like it, I could always come back and change that. So we got 3 lines, so it should make a giant letter I right here. It's going to put it in like its own text box when it does it. And let's see how it looks. Hit OK. Okay, deselect, and that looks pretty good. That looks pretty darn professional there. Looks like I'm reading a magazine article about the internet. This text that I shared with you has some typos in it. If you can fix some of them, great. If you miss 1 or 2, that's not the primary assignment. The primary assignment is all this formatting. So we've done quite a lot. So that's pretty much it right now. If we were making a more elaborate project with maybe more pictures than that, you notice that this column comes here and then it wraps up here. One way is, say you wanted this to keep coming down, you can just put in more pictures and graphics and things like that, and as you do, the text will wrap around it. Or you can have your article finish and then put some text in, or put some graphics and photos at the end. So that's how they do layouts, and they can resize them so it fills just the exact amount of space that you have available. And you can also change font sizes and things like that. We have 1.5 spacing. You could do 1 or double. I think for something like this, 1.5 looks great. So this is looking really nice. So yours should look something like this. You should have your columns and your paragraph forming and your drop cap and your text boxes. We could add headers on here with your name or date or something. We're not going to bother with that. We've done enough of those. You should have a nice pull quote here in the middle. Put some little light fill in there. It could be a light color or light gray like I did. Take out the border. Make this here maybe 16 point, thereabout, at least 14 point, preferably probably a little bigger, 16, 18 point. Looks good. Make it italic. And, of course, we got our justified and layouts here. So that's the end of this here project, and hopefully it worked out good for you. You can name it Internet or Internet History. Either one would be okay. So good luck.